I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting of Marion County Board of Education. We can stand, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to start this evening with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. We'll start out as always. Our first goal is always leadership, and as you all know, and I keep saying that we are studying Maxwell's 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. And since we've met last, the law that we have focused on is the law of priorities, which basically talks about, as a leader, it's very important to pick your priorities and to look at what are you going to focus on so that you get the most return on your investment. And obviously we're investing time. So we talked about that. And just as a reminder, what our goals are for the district and our success criteria over to my left, but that all students are going to graduate college and career ready. Students are on math and reading level, and no novice. So, and we always going to keep that in mind about this is what we're focusing on, and our board meeting focus as well. And for teaching and learning, that's one of our first focuses. I wanted to follow up with our Leadership Now group. We have had some inclement weather, but we took advantage of that. And so our Leadership Now folks actually met with our leadership group. So we had a joint group together, worked out really nice. It was nice for potential leaders to see what principals and central office staff do on a snow day, because we met that day. So it was nice that that happened. And if you look around the room toward the back, we have some samples of student work around the room. And one of the things we did is we looked at the student work, the teacher prompt, the standard, the feedback given. And it was just a nice way of knowing as you go in and you look, are the activities congruent with the Common Core standard? And so it was a great learning activity, and what we hoped was this activity, it wasn't about being critical, it was about learning and growing and how to prepare good questions for students in the classroom. And then that also modeled an activity that principals could take back to their faculty meetings and actually do the same kind of activity. And so we've had a lot of positive feedback from that. Our Algebra 2 teachers at the high school are working on weekly probes, and you're probably saying, what in the world is a probe? But it's basically 5 questions, and they're constantly going back and looking at the standards. So they give the 5 questions, and then they score those, and then each one of those is linked directly back to the standard. And then the teachers can decide, out of the 5 standards, what have they mastered, what do they still need work on, what do they need a lot of work on, what do we need to reteach. And then they go back the following week, work on what needs to be retaught, and or use Compass Learning to help with that. And they also are using their ESS funds to help with the students who struggled with those 5 questions. So we'll be doing that from now until we finish up this semester. We've also completed 3 already. Now, we've not been in school many days since Christmas break because of the weather, but even though we've had some snow days, we've completed 3 unannounced learning walks. So I'm really excited to say that we're still focusing on instruction and we're not allowing that to be a distraction. Excited about that. Also, we're planning at the end of this week to give a common assessment for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in math. So a common assessment basically means every 3rd grade student in this district will take the same assessment. So when we're looking at the standards that we have on this assessment, we can determine as a district how our students are doing, and then what it is we need to do as a district to support any child that's not making progress. Another thing I'm excited about is our weekly principal coaching sessions. Mr. Farmer and Ms. Newcomb actually go out to the schools, and every principal has an opportunity to meet one-on-one in some cases, or 2-by-1 on other cases. But they have an opportunity in their office, in their environment, to talk about things they need help with. And so it's one-on-one coaching sessions. Compass Learning Professional Development is planned the second day for our staff. We're continuing to look at Compass Learning and the kids that are working on that. Glasscock, when students came back, they said, you know, we want to look, and we had one student that had completed 11 hours of Compass Learning since Christmas break. So they celebrated that, and it was a first grade student. And
Have you heard anything about a lawsuit against Compass Learning?
No, sir.
I mean, I heard something about that, so I thought I'd ask and see if anybody else had heard.
I haven't, but, you know, I'll keep my ears open. I will. And when we talk about high expectations, one of the first things I always talk about is customer service. And I'd just like to compliment our maintenance crew and our transportation crew in the midst of this bad weather. Sunday, we worked to clear the parking lots of all the schools, the bus garage, and here on this campus at the ATC in the central office, because even though we had a very warm day on Sunday, and I know that Mr. Spalding told me in front of Calvary, the building blocks that front driveway where the buses pull in. And so without scraping that to get the snow removed for the wind to dry that off, when we would have come back to school on Monday, we would have still had some icy spots. So I just appreciate what they did to try to make sure that if we could have school, and thankfully we've had school, that it was going to be a safe environment for everyone that arrived. And then of course our transportation crew, which is our bus drivers and our mechanics and Ricky, you know, they've had to make sure buses are plugged up. Are they ready? I know we had some trouble this morning, but you know, we got that fixed before it interrupted any kind of student pickup or drop off. But you know, they've been working. Sunday, Ricky came in, started all the buses, made sure all the buses at the bus garage started, so that if the buses didn't start, we could be proactive rather than reactive, because we want kids to be on a bus. Today I was at the high school and I saw a student and he had on short sleeves, and I said, "Where's your coat?" He said, "You don't understand, when I got on the bus, it was so hot I had to take my coat off." I said, "But we're not on the bus anymore, you know." He said, "But it's really warm." So, you know, I was excited. I was worried when I saw a child in short sleeve shirt, but I was excited when he said the bus was so warm I had to take my coat off. So I want to thank you, Mr. Spalding, for the leadership you provided and trying to make sure we got back into school, and please pass that along to your staff. Kids First Advocacy Conference in Frankfurt, February 19th and the 20th. We received a letter about sending a team, and that's basically where, you know, we can send a team and advocate for kids with our legislators in Frankfurt. And we talked about just discussing that a little bit if we wanted to send a team. So I'll basically open that up. I know that Mr. Cecil has expressed interest in attending, wanted to find out if that's something you would also like for me to attend as an advocate, and Mr. Cecil and any other folks that would like to be a part of that.
Well, I mean, they ask for at least one board member and a superintendent, you know, from each district to attend. So, I mean, since Mike's going, that's taken care of. If anybody else wants to go, that's even better. But, I mean, I would suggest that you attend also.
Okay.
I would love to attend.
Okay.
You know what I'd like to see a classroom teacher going to my place, so that they can see what goes on at something like that.
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, really, is it?
I mean, I really
So that the legislators can talk to someone who's in the room every day with the children.
Right.
All right, we'll work on that. That sounds like that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I think it'd be more valuable at this session than it would be for me, because I will get an opportunity to talk to them again at the state conference. So, I'd really like to see a classroom teacher go.
We can work on that. Another opportunity that we have is, as you all have seen the advertisement out for TG Kentucky for the tree planting project, and they're going to plan on planting 35,000 trees on March the 23rd, and they've asked us to have a team, and just wondered if you all wanted to be a part of that team. Now, it could rain, it could snow, it could be pretty, but you know, they're asking that throughout the day that we would help. And in 20 years, you won't see the building at TG, we'll see a forest. So, just wondered if you all wanted to be a part of the tree planting.
I mean,
Okay?
Well, wait a minute, it ain't gonna be no wild try. We either gonna do it as a team or we're not gonna do it.
Now, I know you've got mud boots.
What was the date?
Oh, that's not a problem.
March 23rd.
It's on a Sunday, actually.
Is it on a Sunday?
It's
Yeah, that was
it's on
when I was-
Sunday, March 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be a problem.
That's fine. Well, it'll be after church, it won't be before church.
That didn't work.
See? I'm not gonna get out of this tonight.
We will pick our time accordingly, okay? I'll try to make sure we're all finished up with that. I attended a work-ready community meeting last Thursday. Mr. Abel, myself, and Mr. Barton attended a meeting at the Dave Hurrigan building, and it was a collective audience, and it's basically talking about what can Marion County do to be labeled not as a school district, but as a community, as a work-ready community. And some of the things they look at is graduation rate, and we're well above the state average. Our graduation rate's 93%. And there are communities that cannot even consider applying for this because they don't have the right graduation rate.
Would you repeat that again? Our graduation rate is what?
93%.
I think that's something to be, I know it's not perfect, but I think that's great.
Yeah, we're well above the state average, well above the state average.
Who's the sponsor for this?
It's a statewide initiative, okay? And then another thing they look at is graduation attainment. In other words, after they get out of high school, how many people are actually completing a post-secondary. Now, obviously, once they leave us, you know, we don't have a lot of ties to that, but we're really close, and that's something that our community could work on. Also, they talk about something called NCRC, and it is an ACT work keys assessment. It's another test. And we've talked, Mr. Barton, myself, and Mr. Abel, you know, that's something that we can do with our seniors, and they can either get a gold, silver, or platinum certificate. In some communities, the industries recognize those certificates, and those are the students that basically get their foot in the door because that determines their reading ability and their ability to solve problems. And then they also talked about work skills, soft skills, and those kinds of things, and we have the work ethic seal program. So what the gentleman talked about is that, you know, this is an application process. It's not something that just the school system does, but it's a collective group of folks in a community so that we can say to business and industry when they start looking at Marion County, we are a work-ready community.
There's actually a program out there where they track when kids graduate from high school, they track them for several years actually to see.
Right.
You may have heard of it actually.
And they are, and ours is 19%. And so that talks about it, and Adult Ed was there as well, because they're also looking at things like GED, high school diplomas, if they start college, are they finishing with even an associate's degree? So, you know, when we go back over to our table over here, our college and career readiness timeline, you know, what we have to think about is as those children progress through each of those grade levels and they exit the 12th grade, are we giving them the skills they need not to just get into a post-secondary institute, but can they complete a program? Whether that's a vocational, whether that's an associate's degree, a 4-year degree, or a graduate degree. And so that's why when we talk about the strategic plan, it will be so important about what we do. to follow up with high expectations, one of the things that we're doing in the district constantly every week when we're meeting, whether it's a central office meeting, whether it's a leadership meeting, whether it's a small group meeting, we're always looking at consistency across the district. And one of the things we found is that all of our schools were ending on time, 3:02, but all of our schools were not starting on time. And so as a way to provide consistency district-wide, starting next Monday, we're all going to start at 8:16. Now, some schools were already starting at 8:16 or 8:15. Some schools were starting at 8:10. Some schools were starting at 8:25. But to be consistent so that everyone understands this is what time we start, this is what time we end, 8:16 worked out to be a good time to get our minutes in, you know. And or we're going above and beyond the required number of minutes and hours that students are expected to attend, but just to try to create some consistency.
What consists the start time for the day, school day?
Well-
Bell rings or?
Well, yeah, I mean, a bell rings and then, you know, again, the high school starts, their first class period starts at 8:16. So kids are traveling, you know, to class probably around 8:12. All of our buses have arrived by 8 o'clock.
Or a couple minutes after, so you have no later than 2 or 3 minutes after.
And we did have an issue with one of the buses at the high school.
High school.
And Mr. Spalding and I talked, and we talked with the high school because we were worried about kids eating breakfast before we ever even talked about this issue. Mr. Spalding got on the bus, rode the bus, looked at it, analyzed it, changed some things. Now everybody's getting there on time. So, you know, what I want to say is we're going to be constantly evaluating how we do things to make sure we're doing, obviously we're always going to we're going to do the right thing. But is there a more efficient way or a more effective way to do the things that we're doing? So with this in mind, it just creates that consistency district-wide with starting and ending. So with that being said, and I know that we talk about the number of days we go to school versus the days that some foreign countries go to school. And you know, if we're going to have kids here and kids are getting here at 8 o'clock, and I know, you know, let's provide all the learning opportunities possible for the kids. Because the majority of our kids do ride the bus and they get there. And you know, rather than them just sitting in the cafeteria or sitting in the gymnasium, this gives them an opportunity to get in class and basically get their books open and get started. So.
Is that a general comment? Most of our kids ride the bus.
Yes.
I mean, that is true.
Absolutely. It's definitely more than 50%. I mean, it's probably more like 70-some%.
Is that right? I would have never guessed that.
More so in the afternoons and the mornings, because a lot of people's parents are working close by. They may drop them off, but in the afternoons
So they may not ride in the morning, but they're riding home in the afternoon.
But we definitely have more than 50% still in the mornings.
I would have never guessed that. You know, as many cars as you see, you know, dropping kids off and stuff, you would never think, you know, you had that many riding the bus.
Definitely in the afternoon, you would never think there's 70% of the kids riding the bus home. So